After our engagement, Penelope Donovan gave me a black card and told me to spend whatever I wanted. I bought a $4 lemonade and she immediately berated me for being a scrounger. Sincere, the Donovan family needs a man who can represent them, not some scrounger who's afraid to even spend money. Your every move reflects on the Donovan family. I can't afford to be embarrassed like this. I broke up with her. She immediately turned around and accepted a marriage proposal from Ethan Taylor, the sponsored student her family was funding. 5 years later, we met again at the kindergarten gate. Penelope, arm in arm with the handsome Ethan Taylor, stepped out of a Maybach. When she saw me buying a popsicle for my son at a small stand, she stormed over, roaring, "Sincere, how dare you feed my son this junk? Can't you ever shake off that country bumpkin mentality?" I frowned. "He's not your son." She squinted, sizing up the child, then suddenly sneered, "He's so handsome. How could he not be mine?" I couldn't be bothered to explain. My son has his mother's eyes and nose, but the rest of him is all me. What in the world did that have to do with Penelope Donovan? As school let out, Penelope's black Maybach was parked ostentatiously at the school gate. The parents picking up their children immediately flocked around it. "Look, isn't that Miss Donovan from the Greenwood group? Oh my God, her child goes to school here too? No way, this is just an ordinary public kindergarten. Why would someone of her status—" Penelope frowned in annoyance and turned to get back in the car. Ethan quickly spoke to the crowd in a gentle voice. "Excuse me, everyone. Could you give us some space? Penny has a bit of a thing about germs and isn't comfortable with crowds. Thank you." He smiled faintly. "We're here to pick up my nephew. I hope there's no misunderstanding. We're not married yet." Penelope leaned close to Ethan's ear. "Hurry up and get the kid. We have to visit the Montgomerys later." In the business world of Jinghai, paying a visit to the preeminent Montgomery family was standard protocol. No one dared to be disrespectful. Ethan nodded obediently at once. "Don't worry, Penny. I know how many strings you had to pull to get a meeting with Miss Montgomery. I won't mess things up. But I've heard Miss Montgomery is devoted to her husband and children and keeps them very private. I wonder what kind of man her husband is." Penelope ignored him. She stood leaning against the door with her arms crossed, a picture of lazy arrogance, the same way she looked when she dumped me. I remember the day I broke up with her. The very next second, Ethan was on one knee proposing. I hadn't even walked out the door before the two of them were locked in a passionate embrace. I couldn't figure it out back then. 4 years together, from college to our engagement, how could she cut me off so cleanly, so cruelly? It wasn't until I received that message from Ethan later. Only then did I understand that my 4 years with her had been a complete and utter joke. "Daddy, I want a popsicle." My son's tug on my sleeve jolted me from my memories. The popsicle vendor glared at me impatiently. "Are you buying this or not? If not, give it back." Only then did I realize the popsicle in my hand was mostly melted. "I'm sorry, this one's on me. Could I get another one, please? I'll pay for both." The vendor suddenly exploded. "Who are you looking down on? You think I need your couple of bucks? Take your melted popsicle and get lost. Don't bring your bad luck over here." His tone was vicious, and my son burst into tears. Everyone's eyes shot toward us. Penelope glanced over her shoulder nonchalantly. The moment our eyes met, her sharp, dark eyes flickered violently. But in an instant, she turned away as if she hadn't seen me at all. My son clung to my leg, sobbing uncontrollably. I had no choice but to hand him the melted popsicle. "Just one little taste, okay?" Just as my son was about to lick it, Penelope suddenly spun around. She stared at us, her chest heaving as if she could no longer hold back. She strode over and slapped the popsicle out of my hand. "Sincere, you're feeding my son this kind of garbage?" As she spoke, she wiped her fingers with a silk handkerchief in disgust. "You'll never get rid of that ingrained country bumpkin cheapness." My son, terrified, broke into a loud wail. I quickly knelt and pulled him into my arms to comfort him. Penelope hesitantly reached out a hand but snatched it back just before touching the child. Her voice suddenly softened. "Back then, why did you disappear with the child without a word?" I froze. Her furious roar just now, I almost thought I'd misheard. Now I understood. She actually thought Leo was her child. You're mistaken. He's not your son. If you don't mind, please move aside. I have no interest in catching up. My wife was coming to pick us up any minute. If she saw this scene, that green-eyed monster would find some way to punish me for sure. But Penelope just narrowed her eyes, studying my son, and didn't move. Ethan wrapped his arm intimately around her waist. Penny, don't scare the little one. You'll make Sincere upset. The boy looks like he's only about 3. He can't be yours. Then he leaned in and whispered in her ear, if you really like children, we can get married sooner and have one of our own. Penelope cut him off, her tone firm. He is my son, so handsome, who else could he belong to but me? She was certainly confident. My son has my wife's eyes and nose, the rest of him is all me. Even if he's handsome, it's thanks to my wife and me. What does it have to do with her? The crowd of onlookers grew, their whispers rising. Could it be Miss Donovan's illegitimate son? The other man and the fiancée are facing off. This is going to be good. But this other man has some spine, raising the kid alone all this time without asking Miss Donovan for money. They spoke with such conviction, it made Ethan's face grow darker and darker. He stared at me warily, his voice deliberately low. Sincere, we're getting married soon. Even if this really is Penny's child, please continue to raise him yourself and don't disturb us. We've been through so many misunderstandings to get to where we are today. I don't want some random child to ruin it all. As he spoke, he reached out to caress Penelope's cheek. Penny, why don't we give Sincere some money for child support? I really don't want to be a stepfather. Penelope stared at me, her voice tight with anger. My son is over 4 years old, and you've raised him to be so skinny he's clearly malnourished. If you couldn't afford to raise a child, why didn't you come to me? Doesn't your conscience ache watching your own flesh and blood grow up like this? I almost laughed out of sheer anger. Leo is just over 3, and he's quite well developed for his age. How did he become malnourished in her eyes? I'll repeat myself one more time, he is not your son. He was born in May, so he just turned 3. All the kids in his preschool class are this size. Penelope's brow furrowed, and she pulled out her phone. Give me your number. I'll transfer the child support right now. That way I can contact you when I want to see my son. Not necessary, I said flatly, too tired to argue anymore. Penelope's voice turned cold. The child isn't yours alone. Am I not allowed to fulfill my duties as a mother? I frowned in irritation. Will you ever stop? We broke up 5 years ago. Is there any point in pestering me like this? Penelope was clearly stunned. Then she laughed contemptuously. Sincere, you're overthinking things. I just don't want Donovan blood to suffer with you. It's not because I still have feelings for you. Don't worry. Even if I have your number, I'll only contact you to see our son. After all, I don't want Ethan to get the wrong idea. Her gaze shifted back and forth between me and my son, her expression growing complex. Or, have you been holding a grudge against me all these years? Are you trying to get back at me by neglecting the child? To make me regret breaking up with you? To make me come back to you? I quickly waved my hands. I love Leo very much, and I have no... Sincere. Penelope suddenly cut me off, rubbing her temples wearily. Stop pretending. I admit the breakup was sudden and hard for you to accept. But I love Ethan. If I had known I was pregnant, I would have terminated it to avoid this embarrassing situation. I froze for a moment. There it was. She'd finally said what she really thought. Even if she had been pregnant with my child, he would now only be a burden to her, something that made her feel embarrassed and made Ethan uncomfortable. I didn't need her reminder. If she had really been pregnant back then, I definitely wouldn't have kept the child either. How could I be sure a child was mine when the mother's heart and soul belonged to someone else? I was silent for a few seconds to completely put her mind at rest. I pulled out my phone. The child really isn't yours. I'm married and my wife is wonderful to me. Want to see the marriage certificate? That had to convince her, right? Just as I was about to unlock my phone, she pressed her hand down on mine. Photos can be faked. Since you're determined to hide him, you must have prepared for this. I was instantly speechless. Think whatever you want. The pointing and murmuring from the crowd grew louder. I picked up my son, ready to leave. Leo was still little, he shouldn't be hearing this filth. But Penelope suddenly grabbed my wrist, her gaze fixed on our son, full of emotion. "Leo, call me Mommy." I was utterly dumbfounded. Leo blinked his big eyes and timidly said, "Auntie." Penelope's eyes instantly turned red. She looked at me, heartbroken, her voice trembling. "Sincere, you never even told the child about me? How could you be so cruel? Other children have their mothers to grow up with, but my son, Penelope Donovan's son, has to suffer this injustice." I completely lost my patience. "Are you done?" Let go, but Penelope's grip only tightened. After a long silence, she suddenly sighed. "For our son's sake, I'll give in. Sincere, you can come back." I was confused. "What?" Penelope's lips twisted into a smirk. "Come back to my side. Are you satisfied now?" Penny Ethan immediately looked at her, hurt. "What about me?" Penelope's eyes flickered. "Ethan, I'll just consider him the child's nanny. My feelings for you won't change. It's just, I really can't let this child go." Ethan shot me a venomous glare, tears welling up in his eyes instantly. "I won't have it. This Scrounger is using this dirty trick to cling to you. He's obviously playing hard to get. He can't get over you." Penelope soothed him while staring at me with cold eyes. "I know. Don't worry. Even if he gets on his knees and begs me, I won't be moved. You know as well as I do, with his background and his worldview, how could he possibly be worthy of me?" This exchange drew a snort of laughter from the popsicle vendor. "I thought he was some big shot. Turns out he's just a clingy homewrecker," the onlookers immediately chimed in. "He acts all high and mighty, but he's just a high-level scheming snake. No wonder he's taught his kid to be so timid. Didn't you hear, Miss Donovan? He's from the countryside, a total country bumpkin. So what if I'm from a rural background? I became an investment advisor through my own hard work, handling projects worth hundreds of millions. But in her eyes, I'd never shake the Scrounger label. I love hot street food, hiking at dawn, and devouring half a watermelon in the summer. During our relationship, she disdained all these little things as uncouth. And Ethan Taylor? As the poor student she sponsored, he used her money to buy luxury goods. How come she never called him a gold digger? In the end, it was simple. She just didn't love me. I coldly shook off her hand. "Penelope Donovan, if you keep this disgusting act up, I'm calling the police." Ethan immediately pulled her into his arms. "Penny, he's poor and stubborn. He's taking your kindness as an insult. Let's just leave him alone." But Penelope didn't budge. Instead, she sneered. "The police? That's perfect. With the Donovan family's connections, custody of the child will be awarded to me 100%. I'm giving you two choices now. Either leave your contact information and accept the child support, or come home with me and our son right now as his nanny." I was so angry I could have screamed. I picked up my son and started to walk away. Penelope's face was terrifyingly dark. She rushed forward and snatched Leo from my arms. "Since you're so ungrateful, I'll raise the child myself." She held my struggling son tightly. "If you want to see him, you can find me at Coast 1. I just moved to Jinghai recently." Before I could react, Penelope was already striding toward the Maybach with my son. Ethan trotted behind her, murmuring pitifully, "Penny, didn't you say we were here to pick up my nephew?" My son suddenly began to wail, his cries tearing at my heart as he desperately reached for me. "Daddy, bad guy, I'm scared." I lunged forward like a madman, only to be blocked by the crowd. "The kid will have a great life with him, Miss Donovan. What are you freaking out for? No wonder Miss Donovan doesn't want him. He has no class," not even thinking about his son's future, watching Penelope open the car door. I finally broke down, my voice a ragged shout. "Penelope Donovan, please, I'm begging you, give me back my son." My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone. "I'm not the other man. My wife is the head of the Montgomery family. Leo is our eldest son. We have a little daughter, too. I have a family photo on my phone. Look in an instant, the air erupted with harsh, mocking laughter. The Montgomery family? The one that can bankrupt a public company with a single word? If Miss Montgomery was your wife, would your kid be in this kindergarten? You might as well say you're the president. Everyone was mocking me. No one believed me. A chill ran through me, but I couldn't just stand by and watch my son be taken away, so I screamed with all my might. Penelope Donovan, I'll go back with you. Penelope's steps came to an abrupt halt. She handed the child to Ethan and stormed toward me like a hurricane. The next second, she threw herself into my arms. Her slender, pale arms wrapped tightly around my neck, squeezing so hard I could barely breathe. I was about to struggle when she suddenly grabbed my chin, tilted my head, and snarled in my ear. Sincere, did you really think I'd still want a man who uses a child to scheme against me? Where's that ferocity you had when you broke up with me in front of all our friends? Pain brought tears to my eyes. Penelope, say whatever you want. Scrounger, schemer, uncouth, I don't care. Just give me back my son. Emotions churned in her eyes. I almost thought she was about to agree, but the next moment she shoved me away, took out her handkerchief and wiped her hands. Get in the car yourself. As she walked toward the Maybach, I followed slowly, the crowd's contemptuous stares burning my back. But Ethan suddenly pulled her into his arms, his voice choked with tears. Penny, can we not take him back? That's the home we've lived in for 10 years. I don't want a stranger there. Penelope gently patted his back. Shh. He'll stay in the servants' quarters. Just pretend he doesn't exist. Seeing their intimacy, the bitter memories flooded back. Ethan had been sponsored by the Donovan family since high school and had always lived at their estate. Mr. and Mrs. Donovan treated him like their own son, and Penelope doted on him. During a debate tournament in our sophomore year, it was love at first sight for Penelope, and she pursued me relentlessly. She was stunningly beautiful, gentle, and considerate, and I quickly fell for her. But in our 4 years together, she never took me to the Donovan estate, all because Ethan didn't like visitors. Until one year on her birthday, I wanted to surprise her and went to her house to wait. There, standing in the rain, I saw her kissing Ethan. Pathetically, I convinced myself it was just a hallucination. Sincere Ethan suddenly shouted at me. You're still so shameless, clinging to Penny like a leech. Why didn't you die in that car crash 5 years ago? My whole body went rigid. How did he know about the car crash? The day of the breakup, I had just walked out of the hotel when a car hit me. As I was being treated in the hospital, I dazedly pulled out the blood-soaked black card to pay, only to hear the doctor say, Sir, this card has been frozen. My face covered in blood, I suddenly smiled. A smile that soaked the pillow with tears. Less than an hour after we broke up, she couldn't wait to cut me off. If I hadn't run into my wife, who was doing a hospital inspection, I might have actually died. Ethan, Penelope suddenly asked him. What car crash? What are you talking about? Ethan's face stiffened, and he put on a confused expression. Huh? I didn't say anything. You must have misheard. Penelope was silent for a couple of seconds, then turned back and yelled at me, her face cold. What are you standing there for? Get in, I'm going to the Montgomerys', and you're coming with me. The Montgomerys? I was slightly taken aback. Her face was full of impatience. Yes. And you will stay in the car and not get out. That way you won't have another one of your episodes, spouting nonsense about Miss Montgomery being your wife and having children. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, as long as we got back to the Montgomery estate, this farce would be over. She gave me a brief glance, seemingly unaccustomed to my sudden compliance. At that moment, no one noticed that my son had quietly climbed out of the car. By the time I saw him, he was standing in the middle of the road. My son rubbed his eyes and looked into the distance, where a familiar custom-built Hongqi sedan was approaching. The next second, my son suddenly raised his little hand and shouted at the car. Mommy, bad guy, come save me, and Daddy, the blood in my veins turned to ice. My legs went weak, but I still rushed toward my son like a madman, instinctively shielding him with my body. Honey, stop the car, Sincere. Amidst the screeching of brakes, I heard Penelope's panicked cry. The searing pain I expected never came. A once familiar embrace held me and my son tightly. Penelope's arms were stiff around me, her voice trembling. Sincere, I guess I'm doomed to be ruined by you. Before the words were out of her mouth, she was shoved away forcefully. I looked up to see Victoria Montgomery, dressed in a power suit, crouching on the ground, anxiously checking us for injuries. My son and I hugged her at the same time, sobbing, "Honey, Mommy." Victoria held us tight, burying her face in my shoulder without a word. This woman, who was always so gentle in front of her family, was now radiating a terrifying fury. "Honey, I was only thinking of protecting our son," I explained in a low voice. Victoria took a deep breath, her voice still trembling. "What if Mr. Peterson hadn't been able to break in time?" I nuzzled her cheek reassuringly. "Mr. Peterson is retired from the Special Forces. You don't trust his skills?" She snorted and gave my shoulder a light warning bite. "If there's a next time, I'll bite until you learn to be scared." Penelope sat on the ground in a daze. For someone so obsessed with cleanliness, she had forgotten to get up. She stared at us, her face a mask of shock. "Sincere, you better explain who this woman is," she suddenly exploded with rage. "You're really fucking married? Who gave you permission to find a stepmother for my son? Did I allow it?" Victoria slowly raised her head, her gaze as sharp as a blade. "Your son? Stepmother?" Only then did Penelope get a clear look at the woman's face. Her own face went deathly pale. "Ms. Montgomery?" Victoria raised an eyebrow nonchalantly. "Greenwood Group? Penelope Donovan?" Penelope opened her mouth, but the words died in her throat. Victoria didn't give her a chance to speak. "Jinghai does not welcome you." With that, she signaled for her assistant to take Leo to the car. Penelope watched, not daring to interfere, her expression utterly wretched. "Ms. Montgomery, Sincere is my ex-boyfriend. The breakup was so sudden I didn't know I was pregnant with his child." She pointed at Leo. "Look at his features. He's clearly my son." "Are you insane?" Victoria sneered. "You think I don't know the child I gave birth to? Do you want me to slap you in the face with Leo's birth certificate? With your inferior genes, you think you could produce such an outstanding son?" As she spoke, Victoria's gaze became fiercely sharp. "And don't you dare use your filthy mouth to slander my husband. What's this nonsense about a breakup pregnancy and raising a child alone? Are you even worthy?" I, Penelope bit her lip, want a DNA test. I couldn't take it anymore. "Penelope Donovan, what in the world do you want? What right do you have to slander me like this in front of my wife and child? We ended things 5 years ago. We have our own families now. Can't we just part ways peacefully?" Penelope stared at me, her eyes bloodshot. "Impossible, Sincere. I've been looking for you for 5 whole years. I love you. And I don't want to just part ways." Peacefully, she acted as if she were the one who had been grievously wronged. "So I said a few things about you being a scrounger, so what? Don't I say that all the time? Was that any reason to break up with me at our engagement party? In front of all those people, how could you humiliate me like that?" In the end, she twisted the blame. "I accepted Ethan's proposal out of spite, and you just disappeared. Is that what you call loving me? How could you be so heartless?" I almost let out a cold laugh. "Penelope, I was hit by a car the moment I left that day. Lying in a pool of my own blood, I was still thinking how wonderful it would be to see you one last time. If you really cared about me, why didn't you even come out to see if I was okay?" I looked her straight in the eye. "I was in the hospital for 2 months. Did you really look for me? With the Donovan family's power in Sutton City, you couldn't find someone who was in a car accident." Saying it out loud, I felt the full tragic weight of it. My life was hanging by a thread, and my last thought was regret for breaking up with her, wanting to make things right. Penelope's pupils contracted, and she shook her head in a panic. "Sincere, I didn't know. I thought you had left Sutton City. You still love me, right? It was that accident, a twist of fate that tore us apart." "I don't," I cut her off cleanly. "Since you love Ethan Taylor, Why pretend to be so devoted to me? Wasn't playing me for a fool for 4 years enough? Penelope's face changed drastically. I love you. It's always been you. All the good things I did for you in those 4 years. Did you not see them? When did I ever play you? I closed my eyes wearily. That day in the rain, when you and Ethan were kissing, I saw everything. She frowned, as if trying to remember. You mean on my birthday? He kissed me suddenly. I just didn't refuse. Enough, I said calmly. I was his substitute for 4 years. It's laughable to think about it now. Substitute? She looked completely bewildered. I never… Shut up. Victoria pulled me behind her. She methodically adjusted her cufflinks, then suddenly threw a vicious punch, striking Penelope across the face. Go back to Sutton City. If you ever dare to harass my husband again, you'll have to get through me first. The Montgomery family's position in Jinghai was unassailable. A single word from Victoria could make it impossible for Penelope to survive in the city. As an ancient and powerful family with roots stretching back hundreds of years, the Montgomerys' influence in both military and political circles was immense. Even without using her family's power, Victoria's own skills as a former Special Forces operative in lawless regions meant that 10 Penelopes combined would be no match for her. With that punch, Victoria had held back. Otherwise, Penelope's facial bones would have been shattered. Watching Penelope clutch her face, groaning in pain, I gently took Victoria's hand. Honey, let's go home. Our daughter is waiting for us. At this point, the crowd finally recognized Victoria, and public opinion flipped in an instant. Oh my God, that Donovan woman actually called Mr. Knight the other man? And she insisted on claiming the young master as her own son. The child is only 3, but she insisted he was 4. Kidnapping a child in broad daylight, I've seen it all now. Ethan shakily helped Penelope up, a faint smile on his face as he looked at Victoria. Ms. Montgomery, this whole thing has been a misunderstanding. Sincere and Penny's past is 5 years behind them. We're getting married soon. Penny just has a soft heart. She saw that Sincere was having a hard time raising a child alone and wanted to help him. Victoria didn't even bother to glance at him. She focused on straightening my rumpled clothes and hair, her tone resigned. We'll have to change Leo's school. His identity has been exposed. I sighed and nodded. We had deliberately chosen this ordinary kindergarten and hidden our connection to the Montgomerys precisely so our son could have a normal life. I never imagined Penelope would ruin it on the very first day. Victoria's gaze swept over the crowd, her voice steady and powerful. It's my son's first day of kindergarten. All the children here are his schoolmates. I can let today's incident slide. You've had your fun. But if I hear so much as a whisper about this, she paused, you're all dismissed. The crowd scattered immediately, heading back to the school gate to wait for their children, as if nothing had happened. Victoria supported me, carefully helping me into the smoky blue, custom-built Hongqi state limousine. It was a one-of-a-kind vehicle, specially made for her by a friend. No wonder my son recognized his mother's car from so far away. The image of his small figure standing in the middle of the road, desperately waving for help, flashed before my eyes again, and they started to burn. I held my sleeping son tighter, kissing his soft pink cheek. Victoria had always taught him to protect his family. The boy was truly brave, he just didn't know how to recognize danger yet. Beep, the driver honked the horn, urging Penelope and Ethan, who were blocking the way, to move. Ethan grumbled under his breath, a scowl on his face. What's so great about the Montgomerys? Before he could finish, Penelope clamped a hand over his mouth. Shut up, this isn't Sutton City, she warned, her face grim. Ethan's eyes immediately reddened. Penny, you're yelling at me? Without another word, Penelope dragged him into their car. Since Victoria had ordered her to get back to Sutton City, she wouldn't last another day in Jinghai. Penelope had to get back and pack her things immediately. In the car, Ethan leaned against her, weeping silently. You've never yelled at me before. For that scum Sincere, you actually… What's so great about the Montgomerys? Showing off in some beat-up, hunchy Penelope shoved him away violently, disgustedly brushing off her sleeves. "Ethan Taylor, have I spoiled you too much? Made you so arrogant and clueless? You're a poor student living off a sponsorship. Who are you to challenge the Montgomery family? You wouldn't even know how you died." Was as if Ethan had just woken from a dream. Seeing the dark expression on Penelope's face, he finally grasped the gravity of the situation. His voice immediately weakened. "Penny, if I did something bad to the Montgomerys, what would happen?" Penelope's gaze sharpened instantly. "What did you do?" In a flash, she remembered Ethan's slip of the tongue, "Why didn't you die 5 years ago?" and it all clicked into place. "You arranged that car crash?" Ethan's face was ashen, his eyes darting away. No, I didn't." But Penelope was certain it was him. She knew him too well, he could never look her in the eye when he lied. She grabbed him by the throat, slamming him against the car window. "How dare you?" Her knuckles turned white from the force. Ethan managed to squeeze out a few words through gritted teeth. "Penny, I love you. I just wanted to get rid of him. I didn't do anything wrong." Penelope suddenly released him, then slapped him hard across the face. "So for these past 5 years, when you said you were helping me find Sincere, you were actually destroying all the clues?" Penelope suddenly recalled the hesitant, evasive look on the private investigator's face during his monthly reports. It had been Ethan pulling the strings behind the scenes all along. A resounding slap landed on Ethan's face, and his fair cheek immediately swelled and turned red. He gasped for air, yet still stubbornly defended himself. "Penny, he was never good enough for you." Penelope let out a cold laugh and delivered another harder slap. Ethan's head slammed against the window. He cried from the pain, looking at Penelope with a pitiful expression. But right now, Penelope's face was like ice, radiating a terrifying aura. She stared at the man she had once pitied. Finally, she saw the venomous heart beneath his gentle exterior. "To think I was fooled by you for so many years." Penelope's voice was as cold as ice. "You actually wanted Sincere dead. Ethan Taylor, have you forgotten? You're just a dog I sponsor. When a dog is no longer loyal, do I dare keep it by my side? Letting you play the part of my fiancée these past few years, did you really start to think of yourself as the man of the Donovan family? I did all that just to lure Sincere out. Did you really think I would marry you?" Ethan was stunned and suddenly tried to embrace her. "Penny, don't scare me. You said you loved me, didn't you?" Without thinking, Penelope shoved him away. That was all a lie to provoke Sincere. "Are you incapable of understanding plain language?" Ethan stared at her blankly, then sat up straight in his seat, muttering to himself. "It's okay. Penny's just angry. As long as I'm good, she'll like me and marry me. What's this about a substitute?" Penelope's voice was frigid. "Speak." Ethan forced a gentle smile. "I just told Sincere that he smiled just like me. I really didn't say anything else." Penelope slumped back against the seat, a bitter curve to her lips. The little rabbit she had sponsored for 10 years had long since become a venomous snake that bites. She closed her eyes and said no more. But in her mind, she was already planning to thoroughly investigate the car crash from all those years ago and hand the evidence to Victoria. This was perhaps her only chance to remain in Jinghai. At the very least, she had to see Sincere one more time to explain everything clearly. And then there was the child, the one she had given birth to prematurely and had asked Ethan to deliver to Sincere. She wanted to know if he was okay. Late that night, after hearing an urgent report from the butler, Victoria, who was always soft-spoken at home, smashed her tablet on the floor. Her voice held a ferocity I had never heard before. "Hand this evidence over to the police. No settlements. I want a heavy sentence." She returned to the bedroom. Seeing me leaning against the headboard with our sleeping son in my arms, her icy expression instantly softened. She leaned gently against me, her hand trembling in mine, but she said nothing. I knew she was hurting for me again. She was always like this, never saying sweet things, just quietly taking care of everything for me. Just like 5 years ago in the hospital, when she saw me covered in blood, she had just pressed her lips together tightly and, without a word, arranged for a private jet to fly me to the best hospital in Shanghai. It was a coincidence, really. We had only met once before that. I was volunteering in a refugee camp that summer and met her with a bandage wrapped around her head. I remember offering her a piece of candy I'd brought from home. Want one? Victoria later told me that although she was born into the wealth of the Montgomery family, she always felt a sense of emptiness in her life. That's why she ran off to become a mercenary, until she met me. Seeing her low spirits now, I deliberately changed the subject. Honey, Leo got a scare today. He'll have to sleep with us. She carefully pulled our son into her embrace, gently patting his back, her voice slightly hoarse. Hubby, should I arrange a few bodyguards for you? Every time she had brought up bodyguards before, I had always shaken my head. I didn't want to go public with my identity, I just wanted to live a normal life. But thinking about it now, no matter what, I am still myself. I will still buy a $4 lemonade to quench my thirst, and I can still speak confidently in front of investors. Victoria often said, I just love the real you. I remember in the refugee camp when you offered me that candy, the way your eyes sparkled. I will protect that purity forever. If bodyguards would give her peace of mind, why should I be so stubborn? Whatever you say, I agreed with a smile. Her brow finally relaxed. Good. Male bodyguards. She really couldn't change her green-eyed monster ways. But somehow the more I saw it, the more I loved it. I couldn't help but lean in and give her a light peck on the lips. Honey, I really love you as expected. Victoria's fair face instantly flushed bright red. Who would have thought that the formidable Miss Montgomery, who commanded respect everywhere she went, was, at home, a lovely woman who could be flustered by a few words of love? Life went on peacefully, until one late night when I was working overtime. I finished my investment analysis and was leaving the office when I saw Penelope leaning against a wall, lost in thought. The moment she saw me, her dull eyes suddenly lit up. Sincere, can we talk? There are some misunderstandings I want to clear up. I don't want you to hate me for the rest of your life. I didn't say a word. She took an eager step forward, wanting to get closer, but was blocked by my two bodyguards. Penelope froze in place, a bitter smile on her face. Sincere, does it really have to be like this between us? I didn't even look at her, continuing to walk forward under the protection of my bodyguards. Sincere, Penelope suddenly called out, her voice hoarse. Ethan Taylor designed that car crash. I've been looking for you all these years, but he cut off all the leads. My steps faltered slightly. The truth was, I had suspected it ever since Ethan let it slip that day. Victoria's unusual anger that night, her talk of a heavy sentence, had only confirmed it. Victoria chose not to tell me, not wanting me to be dragged back into the pain of the past. And Penelope, even now, was still pushing all the blame onto Ethan. Penelope, I sighed softly, did you ever think that constantly belittling me for being a scrounger was wrong? How could someone who looked down on me from the bottom of her heart ever truly love me? She was taken aback, but still stubbornly argued. You were never Ethan's substitute. I never thought you two were alike. I shook my head and continued walking. Penelope suddenly fell to her knees. Sincere, forgive me, please forgive me. I just felt that so many things you did were embarrassing to me. As a Donovan, being laughed at by my social circle for having an uncouth boyfriend. I took my anger out on you. I regret it so much. That's why after I gave birth to your child, I had Ethan bring him to you. I thought you would come back for the baby's sake, but you just disappeared without a trace. She sobbed uncontrollably. Our child, is he okay? I want to see him. I've missed him so much. Child? I suddenly laughed out loud. Penelope, stop trying to fool me. I never saw any child. Those words made Penelope's face turn ashen. Ethan Taylor, what did you do? She let out a frantic scream and ran off as if she'd gone mad. After that, I never saw Penelope Donovan again, until one ordinary afternoon, when a news bulletin interrupted the program on TV. The Greenwood Group had declared bankruptcy. Its president, Penelope Donovan, had died after driving her car off a bridge while intoxicated, and in the passenger seat was Ethan Taylor, who had just been released on bail.